Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first From Lab to Market event, stories about science-based entrepreneurship, organized by Aalto Ventures program, Aalto University, VTT Launchpad, Aalto Startup Center, and Aalto Innovation Services. My name is Jarkko. I work at Aalto Ventures program, helping you to learn to build like an entrepreneur. Before moving to the great speakers we have today, I would like to go through a few practicalities. So if you wish to network, there's a chat window where you can introduce yourself. If you need help with something, feel free to reach out to people that you need talent, you need equipment, you need whatever is your need, investment. Then there is this Q&A tab where you can ask questions from our speakers, and those questions will be then voted. So you can vote also the questions to get them higher in the priority list, and those questions will be voted and then answered in the Q&A panel after our three amazing speakers. After the panel, there will be time for networking, and you will be automatically moved to this conference space. So the event itself ends at 2 p.m., but you're welcome to stay longer for networking. Without further ado, I would like to call on stage our first speaker, Pasi Vainikka, co-founder and the CEO of Solar Foods. Pasi, the stage is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. Thumbs up if you can. Yep, very good. You never know these days. Although I must say that without traveling for some months now, it also brings some to working, I must say. Okay. The story around Solar Foods and our experiences and my personal experiences there. In my view, Solar Foods, there are different kinds of startups, and Solar Foods is in a basket where it's kind of a deep technology. It actually allows quite heavy permitting after you can sell, and there can be turnover, and also some quite heavy capital investment. It's kind of a process industry brewery like we are applying, and it has certain characteristics in it, and it impacts basically the team, what you need to have the evidence, what you need to have the early investors, and how you raise funds. But I would say that one of the benefits from the research institutions, what we have nationally, is, and their gift to the society basically is multidisciplinarity and relatively low hurdles between different teams or sectors of research and institute, I have felt, which enables companies like Solar Foods to be founded, which means that we are a classical example of a startup that emerges from a cross-section, an interface of scientific disciplines instead of within a deep discipline, one scientific discipline. And it's also quite interesting, beneficial, and an area of opportunity, because it might be that from these intersections new things can emerge. So that's maybe my first advice and experience, that look around, that how, if there are such things that you feel that they are complementing skills what you need, or if you look different kinds of opportunities, it can be different intersections, and why couldn't there be, if you have this vision, then a multidisciplinary research project, academic project, whatever, that you can basically pull together the initial team to work on something that later then might be actually the founding team of a company. And it's a huge gift and give away what the institution can give you and the multidisciplinary scientific community to you, instead of just looking at which patents there are or whatever, inventions, disclosures and stuff. It's one thing, but then it can be also quite broader. And this brings me to another point, that when we started Solar Foods and basically were proposing that to the investors in the business where we are, you need to have some kind of proof of concept. It can be of different kinds, different levels of depth, but the investors need to see that it works, some evidence that it works in principle, or I mean, in principle means that it's very small scale or something like that, and then for ourselves, when we were able to prove that at VTT, then it was more a question for the investors, that how do we provide this team with the ingredients so that they can scale and go to market. But technically there was significant risk remaining, but proof of concept is something that you need to have, and that might be quite heavy investment in several research projects or programs in your history, and then that is something, even if there were no patents, a huge thing what you can take with you from research. We thought that we could look at commercialization of what we were doing in research, because we saw that there's a window of opportunity and kind of a market pull. And one example of the pull was that we made the press release on our research at the institute, and it actually spread globally quite quickly, and we felt kind of pull that there's interest to what we do. So it might be maybe one advice here is that tell everyone what you are doing, so that you're always testing and getting feedback, and that might encourage you to do. And it might be even favorable not to ask only colleagues, and maybe not colleagues at all. From them you get feedback anyway, but outside that bubble. And it can be that the gift of the research is that you really could have very unique technology that is impossible without this history. So it's a huge asset what you can have and provide. And the community where we are here in Finland, it is very credible globally. So it's good and nice to take research out to the field from Finland, these institutions. Then about researcher's life, in my view, you shouldn't be frightened of going to entrepreneurial life from research, because it's very similar. If you're used to pitch for project ideas, it's not that different at the company side. The only difference is that you can focus on only one thing, which is actually a bonus. So therefore, it's not that different to research. One important thing on the funding side, my advice is that really critical kind of a showstopper is that to understand that a venture capitalist, they fund the team. In my experience, they fund the team, not the technology. So if you have an invention and you're going around that who would commercialize that, it's a wrong question, because investors expect that you are there to commercialize it or take it forward. So you need technology, and then you need a friend or a colleague or a complementing skill in that body, and the money goes to you, and then it's a bonus if you have a good technology. I would put it in that way around. This is my short intro and sharing of experiences. I'm not able to be here after 2 o'clock, but happy to take some Q&A on the way through the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasi. Great tips that team first, then the technology. Next, we will have, after Pasi on stage, Windi Muziasari, the founder and the CEO of Resistomap. Let the lady tell more about herself and about her journey to entrepreneurship.
Okay, can you hear me? In my case, I will have presentation. Okay, let me share first the presentation here so you can see. Can everyone see? I hope yes, you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay, great. So hello again. Thank you, Ilya, and the organizer, of course, to give me the opportunity to be with all of you today. I hope I can give some inspiration. I mean, for everyone who want to start their business from research. So what we do in Resistomap, we fight with antibiotic-resistant bacteria, the bacteria that cannot be killed by antibiotics. To start with, let me introduce myself before. I'm originally from Indonesia. So I did, yes, that island where Finland is in the other side of the world. I did my my bachelor there in Indonesian biotechnology. And then I moved to South Korea for my master's degree, where actually I met a Finnish friend. Then I learned about Finland. I mean, for me, it's a very interesting country when you are coming from Asia side. And that's one of the reasons I continue my PhD in Finland. So I got accepted at University of Helsinki at Marko Virta Group to do my PhD. And that's actually where I learned about antibiotic resistance for the first time. The problem on this antibiotic resistance is not only in human, but also in animal farms. So my PhD was focusing on antibiotic resistance in aquaculture environment in Finnish fish farm, because antibiotics not only used in human, but also in animals. But during my PhD, I learned this technology, which actually already available normally in the clinical area, where the technology of the Smart Chip qPCR is used to detect variation in the cancer. But then one professor, Professor Tijes group at Michigan State University, used the technology for antibiotic resistant profiling. So means like to study different kind of resistant genes from environmental samples. Basically, this technology is the same as the standard qPCR, if some of you familiar. So basically a machine to detect and to quantify a gene. But then this machine has 5,000 more wells, so it means like 50 times more than the standard. So it's very comprehensive and of course much faster. This technology are available everywhere. I mean, available already there and then published in research. I just have the know-how knowledge to use this because I visited also Michigan State University to learn all this technology. And using this technology, I applied for my postdoctoral research at the University of Helsinki. We, together with my supervisor, of course, we got funding from Academy of Finland on development grant. So, of course, I want to study in Indonesia since I'm from Indonesia. But then during this project, I realized the problem is really big, especially in the country where antibiotics are not regulated well and the waste from human or from basically any waste are not managed well. So, all the urban wastewater released directly to the river. This kind of urgency that I felt like, oh my God, the situation is not good, at least outside of Finland. And I'm kind of like have an urge to make sure people are aware about this issue, because I spent almost 10 years, right, studying this issue. And the problem is like monitoring these resistant genes in the environment is not that easy for some people. So this is kind of the problem that I had. During my postdoc, I also organized a course where I invite external experts on entrepreneurship. And one of this, topic in the course is about business model canvas. So I joined actually the student to do this business model canvas for my own problem in my research area. In this case, about the how to make people, or how can I help people to monitor this resistant bacteria in the environment sample in the environment. And this is my business model canvas actually in early 2017. I see you cannot read, but yeah, this is the idea that I've been trying to put it. But then only idea is not enough. So I met my friend, actually the friend that I met in South Korea. We are still best friends. And he has experience working in the startup world, and he's a computer guy. Of course, like we always need computer guy. And then when I told to him about its idea, it's naturally we become like the co-founder. So it's very important to have co-founder. I think if you coming from only one area. And yeah, he helped me like to make this idea into a product or a service in our case. But then again, business and idea is not enough in our case, because we need laboratory. Laboratory itself, it will cost us 1 million euros. So it's not easy to get investment also for 1 million euro. And then we are lucky that in 2018, there's a Nordic Laboratories in Finland who has all the facility ready. The owner of Nordic Laboratories is actually in Copenhagen. So I went to Copenhagen and I met with the owner, Chris Moore, and then I'm happy that he likes our idea, and then so that he allow us to use also the facility in Nordic Laboratory by partnership. And yeah, and then we got also paid pilot for the first time. So it's nice to know that indeed the urge that I feel when during my postdoc study, I got the feeling that there are many other researchers look for help on monitoring this antibiotic resistant in the environment. And indeed, when I started, there's one researcher who are willing to pay our service for the first time, and it works. And that's one of the reasons after the postdoc, by the end of 2018, I decided to move to, like 100% in entrepreneur and just working for Resistomap. It's a bit hard decision because, like you don't, at least like during academia, you have monthly research, monthly salary, and especially if you're not from Finland, it's very important for you to have a permit living in Finland that, you require some funding that that you have something to live in Finland. So it's a bit hard decision for me because I knew that my permit in living in Finland will get affected. But of course, like I think that I know that this company should survive because I do have finally join this incubator accelerator where I learn basically the business from A to Z. I joined the several incubator accelerator, and currently I'm joining the German Scholars, so focusing on sales and marketing. And about the funding, I got the angel investor, which is actually the owner of Nordic Laboratories. So it's nice to have this final investor. And then also we got funding, you can get it from Business Finland. And then we got also from Finn Partnership grants, where if your project will be conducted in any developing countries. In our case, we also doing project in Indonesia. And of course from the customers, because I believe every business should be sustained with having customers. So currently we have served of around 51 projects from 34 customers. So it means that their customer use our service more than once, and they are mostly from 19 different countries. Like, as you know, maybe Finland is not the best market for us. And then we are trying to go to global market. What we do is basically the same, just help people to detect and quantify resistant genes in environmental samples. We receive the samples, our DNA samples in our facility in Viki, and then we deliver the result usually within 2 weeks. This is our laboratory in Viki. So it's the same, basically just the laboratory like when I did my PhD and postdoc. This is, however, the result we deliver to them more in the automatic way, so that a customer can get the different level of resistance in different samples. The benefit that we try to deliver to the customers, that they get the easy access of the technology, and then they don't need to have their lab. And then, of course, they don't need even to have experience on the qPCR machine, and then we can deliver fast result. So the point here is like our business model is more like service. We don't even build or IPR or have those any of those, but try our best to help people by serve the available technology. And currently, these are our customers, so basically researchers from universities or technical university and research institutes. And indeed, seems like I'm happy that many customers are use our service. That we help them clearly about their research, and we collect samples also from pretty much different part of in the world and different type of samples. And our idea is like to build this as a database, and by having this database, that hopefully we can help to mitigate the spread of this resistant bacteria by understanding where the source of this resistant bacteria can, where would be the reservoir of this resistant bacteria. And now with the R&D funding from Business Finland, we are also developing a digital platform to be used in the hospital. Digital platform for antibiotic resistant monitoring in hospital. Hopefully that can be used an early warning system for any potential outbreak of resistant bacteria. This COVID-19 teach us, right, that prevention is important than treatment. And this is our team. We are 8, but these 3 are full employed, and the 4 people are part-time, and then 1 intern student. And if you want to know more about System, please join us in the webinar. And I will be here also after 4 p.m. if you want to discuss more about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Windi. Truly inspiring. I would also the audience to post questions to the tab Q&A, so I don't have to come up with all the questions. So feel free to ask questions to from Windi or from Pasi or the next speaker, Jarkko Antila, or general questions which could be relevant for all of these speakers. But without further ado, our last but not the least speaker is Jarkko Antila, a founder and ex-CEO of Spectral Engines. So he has, I guess, an exit story to tell as well. He's nowadays a founder and a CEO of Leaping Boulder. I'll let Jarkko to tell more.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks very much for the introduction and the invitation. Glad to be speaking today. My name is Jarkko Antila, and like Ilja mentioned, I'm the founder and ex-CEO of Spectral Engines, and nowadays running a company called Leaping Boulder. And today I will be talking more about my own sort of trip towards entrepreneurship, not really about Spectral Engines as such, even though it's a kind of a vehicle, but more or less about what has happened along the way so that I have become an entrepreneur and being able to start a company or two. So hopefully you get some taking from that. And especially I will be talking about small steps and giant leaps. That's my theme for today. So in my experience, you take small steps all the time towards something that you don't necessarily realize that you want to do. But now and again, you need to take kind of giant leaps, kind of conscious decisions to take you forward in your career. How I became a researcher all started from a nudge. I was on the verge of going to high school or not, and my parents kind of nudged me very gently to go there. I was not very good at school. It took me, until the end of the 3rd grade in high school to start studying something. But then I got interested in physics and got into Tampere University, or the University of Technology then, to study engineering. And I actually put the Defense Forces logo, the kind of the leadership school here, because that was one interesting part on my way to where I ended up in. That taught me like people management and people behavior, and gave me this kind of an initial motivation for, you know, being interested in how people behave. It was interesting that you know, in a few months you could learn to predict with very high accuracy who are the people who will get the flu just one day before a, you know, training camp in the forest overnight. So that was very interesting. Anyways, I came back, and then it was time for my first giant leap. I moved from Tampere to Helsinki. It was a big thing then. Of course, there was a woman that helped me do this decision, but anyways, it was a big change. And another great leap was then when I went to University of Strathclyde for a year as an exchange student. It's highly recommended. It was a scary thing. I still remember I was sort of panicking in the first night I was sleeping in Glasgow, but it went really well, and you learn a lot about being independent, working with different cultures. Of course, you learn the language, so it all becomes very handy if you become an entrepreneur. Especially in Finland, you need to be like internationally oriented, because the markets in Finland are so small. Now, I came back to Aalto University, so the Helsinki University of Technology then, and continued my studies. I was studying space technology and optical measurement technology, and I got a summer trainee position at VTT. It was kind of a small step in my career, but it turned out to be a big thing for whatever I did after that. And I had a great boss, actually, Heikki Saari, then, who believed in what I did. And for some reason, I had some ideas that fitted what they were doing. So I got, like, my master's thesis work for VTT was sort of my own idea, and they got funding for it. And it was really like a self-confidence boosting experience. And the studies supported what I was doing, and what I was doing at work supported my studies. So it was a good combination. And then I became a researcher at VTT. And I was already on this path of you know, towards PhD, writing some conference papers and things like that. But then there was this company called Inficon, small team on Åland, that came to VTT one day and wanted to make an optical pressure sensor. And I was the main researcher in that project. And we made some great work, filed some patents. And after that, Inficon guys said that they would like to hire me to run their projects and their small R&D team. So that was really a place for making a conscious decision whether I will continue pursuing PhD career, whether I will go to private sector and do something else, and on top of that, live on Åland. So I made the decision to kind of jump off from my research career at that point. The trouble is, of course, that Åland, if some people don't know, is located in the middle of the Baltic Sea, and they speak Swedish. So I had no relatives, no Swedish-speaking history, nothing of that sort. I didn't do any water sports like fishing or sailboating or anything like this. So for the first 6 months, when I was only speaking Swedish, I decided to do that in order to integrate, learning new job, learning new people, and I was so hammered that I couldn't do any. When I went home, I just kind of slept, and then I woke up the next morning. But one day, I still remember there was a flight from Inficon to their main headquarters in Liechtenstein. I got an idea on the plane. I have no idea what the idea was. Probably it was not a good idea, but the main thing was that I got an idea. So that meant that I was getting out of this like overload mode. And from that on, things started rolling easier. we were doing sensors, so pressure sensors, all kinds. So I learned a great deal. I learned how to make tens of thousands of high precision sensors. I learned about people management. I had a small team of 4 people. That was my first experience as a boss. I learned about how a stock company works. So Inficon is a Swiss stock company, and the Åland subsidiary is just a small portion of it, but it was kind of a high growth subsidiary. So I could see this kind of high growth mode. So it was really a good learning experience. But after a while, Åland as a place started feeling like it's not going to be for me for a long time. And coincidentally, VTT was doing some changes, and my future boss called me one day and asked if I would want to start leading my old team at VTT. So I agreed. And even though I liked my work at Inficon, I had some nice career opportunities. I came back to VTT and became the team leader of optical sensors. And anybody who has been a team leader at a research organization, at least at VTT, knows that it's kind of a challenging position. I had about 20 people in my team at 2 different locations, but it taught me a great deal about setting a common strategy. What's the power of having a strategy? Coaching type leadership. You know, you have experts. You can't tell them what they should do, but you have to kind of try to put them voluntarily to the same direction, figure out new communication ways. So I was doing that. I was really interested about that, and I learned a lot. At the same time, I was initiating a lot of sales and marketing effort in order to, get more work, get more project. Project sales is one of the tasks that a team leader does. And things were actually going really well. So personnel survey results were going up. We got a bunch of new projects and around those technologies that we were working. So it was kind of it became a platform, and I could have continued and could have taken it forward, but something was still something was not matching inside. I felt like I would want to create something bigger myself. I couldn't really put my finger on that at that point, like what was it? But there was a point in time at some point when it became evident. A bunch of these kind of nudges and small steps and giant leaps that I had taken in the past, and a certain situation changed my direction. That made me mentally more entrepreneur than researcher, and it made things grow from that on. I call it the Big Bang of November 2012. There are 3 things that I want to talk about in that. One is technology and business idea, one is self-confidence, and one is risk management. Technology and business idea is pretty clear. Amazing technology by VTT guys from years before. Pasi mentioned cross-functional skills in cross-functional tech. It was really important. We did some nice international sales and marketing for the projects and prototypes that kind of proved the early traction for the technology. But two fields which is not that much talked about within the research field, at least when thinking about going to be entrepreneur, is self-confidence and risk management. If you have not taken the step of being an entrepreneur, these 2 things are actually quite relevant. And for me, the self-confidence improved a lot during my history through these positive experiences from being proactive, being supported by my bosses, by my first boss at VTT, the various bosses at Inficon, who were also very, very supportive. And I also got good results in then what I did. So I started believing that I could manage in all kinds of situations. Then I had this private sector know-how behind me. So that was a big confidence boost as well, because I knew that if I go and start something, then I should be the one kind of taking that part forward. Third is risk management. There's lots of people in Finland who say that they could be entrepreneurs, but they'd have to it's a big risk and they have to provide for their families, and it's very understandable. And of course, I was thinking about that as well. At the time when this happened, it was actually at the start of the Tutli funding tool, Research to Business, now by Business Finland. And a colleague of mine, we discussed about this opportunity, and he kind of suggested that, should we go for it? And I just said yes. And this was in a Finnish way, done by SMS at that time. So it was the big bang of November 2012 was actually one SMS to me and another one back. VTT, so we got a nice funding, so that created this lowering of risk, that we knew that we could build the foundation of the company and still be employed by VTT. VTT also had the safety net then of being able to take 1 year off, and if everything goes bad, you could come back. But maybe one of the most important things is that I was not alone. I was with my colleague Janne, and then we had a bunch of other people ready to join the team. So it's a much nicer burden when you have people sharing that. There's one or actually a couple of occasions I would want to raise in this context along the way that might be somehow underestimated. But we organized a team meeting in Nuuksio at a summer 2013 at a cottage. This was in the middle of our Tutli project. We gathered everybody in the project, our international advisors from the US, UK, and we did this classic post-it workshop and figure out the ambition level of the company, the foundation, the vision, the values, the main values, the exit goals, things like that. So it was really valuable, and we made a document out of that. And this kind of set the direction for the whole work. We didn't have the business plan yet, or we didn't have the final team yet. But when we had that, it was easier to fit those two into this basic foundation. Another occasion was then a few months later, VTT organized a censor seminar called Sense 13. And sometimes in a research organization or university, I don't know if others have the same experience, but the spin-off organizations don't necessarily take their own people seriously enough, especially if you have high plans. We kind of sensed that things were not moving, so we imported our potential future customer from Germany. It's this guy who's lurking from the corner, Dominik Rabus. And we flew him in to join the seminar, but what we really wanted him was to discuss with VTT Ventures, one by one, one-to-one without us. And they had a 1 hour discussion about whether this guy sees spectral engines as a good opportunity. And after that, everything started rolling forward really well. So it is. It was an important thing, and I urge everybody to leverage outside help. So things started rolling, and there were lots of twists and turns, and it still took half a year for us to close the seed funding and to really take the leap to be entrepreneurs. But when we did, we looked like this. So this is our team having some champagne in the park. We had Janne as the Chief Commercial Officer, me as the CEO, Ola as the CTO, and then Jussi being the senior engineer. So 4 people, and we were really complementary. That if Janne, for example, couldn't attend a sales meeting with a customer, then I could just jump in, and also he could advise something on the technology. So it was a really smooth team. And Pasi mentioned about the importance of the team earlier on in his section, and I definitely agree. I think we got much of our capital funding along the way because of our team, not specifically because of the technology. Now, lots of small steps and turns happened, of course, during Spectral Engines time, but the next giant leap was that when we decided.
Jarkko, excuse me. we're running out of time. So like if you could.
Yeah, this is the 2 minutes. So
Okay, cool.
so we sold the company, and that was a huge difference. And I got out of there now and in June, and I didn't have a plan. So there was a final leap into the void. But I figured that all these twists and turns made me know something about deep tech startups. So I took my final leap so far and set up my new company, Leaping Boulder, for enabling business traction for early stage deep tech startups. So finally, I just want to say that there's lots of small things that you don't necessarily recognize that are taking you to the right direction. But then taking those decisions at the right time will take you to your goal. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Jarkko. Could I ask all the other speakers to turn their cameras and microphones on as well, so we can have a short Q&A on the topics. So the top question from the audience is that did you find it difficult to leave academia, or to convince your co-founders to leave academia? So.
If I can answer that, I maybe was fortunate that I had driven myself to a situation where for me it was a natural decision, and I have had a bunch of people who also had the same kind of urge, I guess. So I was lucky enough to find people who had this wish in them, and because we were sort of still also like mutually supporting ourselves mentally. So it was easier as a team to take that step than it would have just as an individual.
Okay. For me, it's a bit different. I think it's a bit hard decision because, as I mentioned, it's also associated with my permit living in Finland. So I really need to make sure that I should move to, or like focus in my company that I should be success, or at least I can prove that I can still live in Finland. And of course, I need a support then from friends, and especially if you have a family. Like in my case, I have my partner. So I told him, like, is it okay if in like a year I will not contribute to the economy of home or not? So it's not also about the academia, but it's about your personal life also. But for academia point of view, because I do have the urge to really need to do something, it's a bit clear decision to move to entrepreneurs. But it's more the other part, like external, that makes it hard decision to move from academia to the entrepreneurs. That's all.
In my experience, it can be difficult. If there's a research team, and if you ask that, that who wants to come along with the startup, it might be that not everyone raise a hand, put it that way. And it is also showstopper. It can be if that's the room, if that's the team where you would need one or two key technology people or something. If they're not willing to, then that's the end of the company, to put it black and white. Or you really need to go around a bit longer way to figure that out. And also, it again turns back to the fact that if you don't get the right people aboard, it's very difficult to get financing, because again, it goes primarily to the team. When the difficult times comes, are these the people that can find around? But my a bit of a trying to relieve this a bit. I want to share my experience that if you are, and in the case of research here, more or less deep technology, that it's not a trivial thing what you most likely are doing. There is also funding available. It's not really about compromising anything, or you take an unreasonable financial risk. If you think you are taking unreasonable financial risk, it's up to you. But it's also part of the company to be well financed. So work on it so that people then might feel confident. Okay, we have money for a year and a half and I can do what I promised to do, and then let's see. So there's some period that you can work on it and don't need to kind of pick up the seed every day and see if it's green already.
I totally agree. I had a call yesterday night to California, to Wes Goldstein, and he was saying that the problem with the deep tech startups is that the ambition level, what Jarkko was also saying, is not high in multi-billion markets rather than hundreds of millions. And he's looking for that kind of investments. But like Pasi already started, so what would help taking the path from science to impact or science to entrepreneurship? Pasi named that funding is available and that's encouraging, but what other things would make that transformation easier?
You mean from an individual's perspective?
Yeah, individuals, or like what kind of support you would wish from the ecosystem or from peers or from academia, or
if I want to give some concrete example, also another institution online, I still haven't seen a proper policy for spinning out IP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not a priority of the research institution, and if I would need to name one bottleneck in the Finnish innovation system to the ministry right now, that would be that it's not the purpose of life for this institution. It doesn't have to be the whole purpose, but there is absolutely no policy. It's kind of ad hoc.
Yeah.
And you must see that you might, let some companies live and kill some good initiatives. That is a major problem, and people will, when they want to spin out, they need to go through this. And I say this because there cannot be any compromise in the IP, or it cannot be unclear who owns it and how it's done.
Okay, what about Windi? What would help you, or what helped you, or what do you think that what would help peers to move?
For me, I think it's more like simple one. Just the more exposed researcher into this entrepreneurs world, like in my case, I also start to think about business because I was organizing a course. I don't even have the expertise, but just organizing a course, and I search, like what is people in these entrepreneurs, like how to build startup, like how even to build the idea from research. So I think, or at least coming from in university, I believe they have this already, the innovation service, or like in Aalto, like you have this innovation activities. But normally it's for students to find knowledge. Very rare that it's targeting for the researcher, or at least postdoc level. We never get, because we're so focused in the lab. And then I think it will be nice to have more some activities or event, or even coming from the university or institution itself to encourage researcher to just be exposed to this entrepreneur world, that just to think like, oh, actually my research can be commercialized, as simple as that one. I think we need more stuff like that.
Okay, exposure to the other world. What about Jarkko?
Well, I guess I would take mention some of these things in my talk, but I would take a role perspective. I've seen a lot of initiatives and early stage teams where the CEO, for example, is selected so that it's the person who resists the least. So, you have typically like two technical persons and they want to do technology, and the other one really wants to do the technology, so the other one has to be the CEO. So and that's not a good starting point for a future CEO to go fundraising, for example, when the person doesn't really want to be in that role. To grow, in a way, startup leaders from research institute, there's no program for it. So it is only up to the team itself to do that. So that would actually be interesting if universities or organizations could, organize trainings courses for researchers on being at different roles in a startup.
Great. Thanks, Jarkko, for making the baseline for the next call to actions. So I would like to hear your last call to action, and then we are the organizers of this event are telling what kind of support is being offered in the ecosystem. But before moving to that part, some last thoughts, something you would like to tell to this around 100 participants in this event.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I can still strongly recommend taking those leaps, and I recommend kind of discussing with your inner self whether you have this hidden spark in you and you have just suppressed it because of some risk-taking reasons or something else. If you identify that within yourself, please start taking actively steps towards that. Being entrepreneur and taking the step to startup is not as risky. Like Pasi mentioned, it is there's lots of funding available nowadays. There's like a big amount of VC money pouring into European and Finnish companies. So it's definitely if there's an idea, there's also funding for it.
Right, Windi.
Yeah, my encourage. Sorry.
Go for it.
Windi.
Yes, I think.
I go first.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking that if you are a scientist and you're interested on what you do, you may have a friend or colleague who thinks a bit to the same direction, or maybe closer or a bit further away. You've met in another institute along with the project and so on. You might have some initial seeds there, and if you think that writing again and again and again new funding applications, and you have several projects running and you are kind of multitasking around research and that troubles you, but instead you would like to focus on something what you really like, then you need to found a company, because that's how it is.
Cool.
Thank you, Pasi. Actually, I follow that one already. I build the system up also because I want to do something that I want to do. Focus on what I want to do. So I think as my presentations show that nothing so special from me. I have no product or IPR or anything, but I just have this passion to solve some problem in the research. So, and I believe every researcher has those, and just go ahead to pursue the entrepreneur life, because it turns like I survive and I live. So it's not that super scary, and like it's not that so hard if you have the spark, as Jarkko said, and then if you believe, and then to continue the work as basically doing research the same. It doesn't matter in academia or building your own company, because the work is the same if you continue further your research in this case. And that's all, I guess.
Can you still give me 30 seconds? One aspect is also that don't build too high ambitions and hurdles, because if you're doing here in these institutions reasonably good research, in company life it's already high level, so you will do fine. It's absolutely no problem, and then just go after it. It's not magic technology, but it's basically executing what you're through your plan, not doing magic and new basic inventions.
Okay, thank you, Windi, thank you, Pasi, thank you, Jarkko, for joining us today and sharing your thoughts about science-based entrepreneurship. Next, I would like to call on stage Joel and Tia-Maria with me to share a bit how to get started in this ecosystem. So from my side, or from Aalto University's side, there are innovation agents by Aalto Innovation Services located in different schools of Aalto. Some of them also in this event. So please, if any of the innovation agents are in the event, could you please write something short in the chat that you can be contacted and which school you are representing. Also, there's Entrepreneurship Education, what Windi was mentioning, that some knowledge might be needed is offered by Aalto Ventures program. So there is an online course, which is the easiest way to get started, called Starting Up. Then there will be trainings towards researchers coming in spring 2021. That's something we hope that you could answer the questionnaire after this event if you're interested of getting training, and if you're interested in getting this kind of events in the future. And also there's entrepreneurship courses that organized by AVP and other organizations inside Aalto. Juha Lipponen, Professor of Practice, is also helping with bio-based scientific findings and commercializations. So if you have ideas to that, Juha Lipponen is the correct person to contact. And then Aalto Startup Center is opening their incubation content to research to business teams, and Joel is going to talk more about that now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, finally the camera is on. So what we are doing in Aalto Startup Center, together with our friends Aalto Innovation Services, we are supporting the research to business cases more closely in the future, now and in the future. And for these purposes, we have started the research to business pre-business generator program that helps the researchers to take the commercialization activities forward. So what we have is that it's a yearly program. We have common events, 4 events yearly that are open to all. And here at the slide, you can see the next week's open event where we focus on the customers. So how to understand the customers is topic, and it's held by Kalle Reunanen, who has been giving lectures to Startup Center even before. So he has a very practical approach on that, how to take the innovations forward and how to listen to customers and how to get feedback from the customer side in order to get your commercialization right. And then when the time comes to start up the company, then you already have customers. So that will be our next week, and there's actually a link here on the slide. So you are free to join the event 4th of November starting at 9:30. And then also there's another one coming on 25th. Or is it 26th? I can't see the slide properly.
26 it says, yes.
Yeah, so there will be a link provided to that one later on if you want to join. But please look at our Aalto Startup Center web pages, our Facebook, and so forth, social media to get notifications on these events.
Great.
So you're welcome to join.
Thank you, Joel. And then Tiia-Maria from VTT Launchpad.
Hi, thank you for the interesting presentations on my behalf as well. So I represent VTT Launchpad, which is an internal science startup incubator at VTT, and we are committed to develop fundable spin-off ventures from VTT's IPR. And we are constantly looking for individuals that would be interested in founding a science-based startup, joining a venture team as an entrepreneur, or as a mentor. In case you're interested to hear about more, or please visit our website. You can see it here on the slide, or contact me by email at launchpad@vtt.fi.
Cool. Thank you, Tiia-Maria.
Thanks.
And as a last reminder, the next Lab to Market event will be arranged 25th of November, same time from 1 to 2. Similarly, short introduction talks, and then opportunity for you to ask questions and network across disciplines and across organizational borders. As a last follow-up, I would urge you to answer the questionnaire to collect some feedback related to this event and hopes for the future events. And also you have an opportunity to sign in or leave your details for the trainings for spring 2021, so we can contact you and offer you training. For my side, thank you for all the organizers, for VTT, Aalto Startup Center, Aalto Innovation Services, VTT Launchpad, and thank you for our amazing speakers. Thank you for the great audience.